What's poppin', everybody? So, you already know it's your boy. Today is a very special video that I will be doing because today is my mother's 59th birthday. She did pass away back in September from, the virus. And so I just wanted to, do something special for her. Even though she's not here in the physical, we carry her in our hearts, and she lives on through us. So I hope you guys enjoy this. My mother was born in San Pedro Sula, Honduras on March 20th, 1963. She was the youngest girl out of six siblings total. Growing up, my mother didn't really have much. So, in her mind, she wanted to come to the US and, live the American dream. And that's exactly what she did. She came at a very young age. Um, she met my father, obviously, and they got married. They had me. My mother was a young mother. I was actually born a week before her birthday, her 19th birthday, so I was an early birthday present. Um, and yeah, she was a go getter. She was a hustler. Like she was very um, charismatic. She was funny. She had a very distinct laugh. And she kind of like lit up the room, like people that know my mother, they just like adored her. She was very funny. She was very personable. So, that's just who my mother was. Growing up, I was my mother's broke best friend. We did everything together, and she did her best as a young mother, to do her best as a mom, and try to give me everything that I needed. Um, but as she got older, she was working and stuff like that. So I was spending a lot of time with my grandmother. My grandmother was always there, and my grandmother was the one that raised me. So you know, as I got older, things kind of did go left between my mother and I. Um, there was a period where we didn't talk for years. Um, and it was crazy. It was crazy. I felt when I got older, I really didn't know my mother like that. I really didn't know my mom. I only knew my mom from what I saw as a child growing up. But um, I tried, to have a relationship with her. It was pretty estranged. Um, Thinking back, I'm like super whack. That things happen that way. Uh, but you know, I want to say between 0 to 10 years. Like my mom was, she was like my everything, right? Um, I left my mother to be with my grandmother, and we moved to Miami when I was like around 10 years old. And then, after that, pretty much like I would come visit my mother in the summertime, vacations and whatnot. Um, but it wasn't until, I became a teenager and I came to live with my mother that things kind of got rocky, and that's where like everything started. But you know, I kind of wish things didn't play out that way, and who knows how things would have been. But my mother was very hard headed. We were both kind of like one and the same. um, as much as I didn't know my mom, I think I knew my mother better than anybody else, if that makes sense. Um, but um, up until she passed, like the last time we saw each other was 2016. So I hadn't seen her for like about 5 years. Um, and I had turned a different page in my life. Um, before she passed, and I had reached out to her, and I kind of like forgave her, for anything that she had done in the past, and I asked her for forgiveness. Um, but I kind of still kept my distance, and we never really had a conversation to kind of like mend things. We kind of like left it as is, and it wasn't up until back in August of last year, like the last week of August, because she passed September 3rd. So I got a phone call, that my mother had gotten sick, and that she was in the hospital, and then she ended up getting like intubated, and it was super crazy. Like I really didn't know how to feel at the moment, when all that was happening, and I was even like debating, questioning whether I should even go see her. But that was just my ego. Um, but I in my mind I thought like she would pull through. My mother was like very strong. She been in many situations where like she's pulled through or whatever. So I was like in my mind like she'll be okay. I know she'll get through it and whatever. But things took a turn for the worse, and it was like a last minute. I decided to like go and see her. Um, so my wife and I, we literally drove 16 straight hours to Nashville, Tennessee, because that's where my mother was living at the time. We drove straight to Nashville. My sister was, she lives in California, and I was the one that actually called my sister and told her like, "Yo, mom's in the hospital," blah blah blah. And her and my sister also had an estranged relationship, so it was crazy. It was like one of those things that it was very conflicting. Um, but we ended up going, and my sister had already been there. She flew out first, and she had already been there. My mother was already like in a coma, pretty much, because she was intubated. Um, so when I got there, we had left like 9 o'clock at night on a Thursday, and we drove straight through to Nashville. And so by the time we got to Nashville, it was like literally 4 o'clock Central Time, so it was like 5 Eastern Time. And as we were like getting within, like close to the city limits and whatnot, my sister called me, and she basically said we gotta rush to the hospital. Like she's like not doing good, and like they need us to be there. So like we literally flew to the hospital. Like literally like they were waiting for me to get there because my sister had already been there. And I kid you not, those 2 hours that I was with my mother, like, whew, it was crazy. It was crazy. Yeah, sorry. Um, I haven't really spoken about this, like, especially on camera. So it's a little difficult right now. But yeah, so we got there, and the like she was like in some special unit, and we had to like gown up and put like these face masks and whatnot. You know what I'm saying? So like just to be cautious, and
we went in the room, and it was just like me and my sister, and it was bugged out, like just seeing her there. At that point, her oxygen level was like super low. Her blood pressure was like super low, and just pretty much like what was keeping her alive was like the intubator and like whatever medication that they had her on. And so we were there with her. Like she couldn't. She was like in a coma. So it's not like we could have a conversation or anything like that. So just pretty much was there with her, and just talking to her. Um, I held her hand and I was praying for her. And I was like talking to her in her ear. Just letting her know that regardless of everything, that I loved her and that I was there, and pretty much to forgive me if I ever said anything to upset her or whatever. That whatever we were going through, like that, none of that mattered. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just wanted her to be reassured that, that we were there for her, and, that we just wanted her to know that we loved her regardless. At that moment, whatever, like, that we have been through, like, you know, like, it didn't matter. I just wanted her to, get better and stuff like that. But you know, as we were there, like we noticed that, her blood pressure and her oxygen level started dropping even more. So it was one of those things that I feel like she literally waited for me to get there to kind of like let go. But prior to, her blood pressure and oxygen level dropping, um, my pastor had called, and he was talking to me, and he wanted to pray for her. So I put him on speaker, and like I put the phone like close to her ear, and as he was praying, like the tears were coming down her face. At that moment, I knew my mother had made her peace with God, and she was ready to go home. They pronounced my mother dead at 6:53 p.m. Central Time on September 3rd, 2021. That was like the craziest moment of my life. Despite, you know, whatever we had been going through, um, I was never expecting that. And, as we left the hospital, the sun was setting, so that was just like confirmation, her letting us know that she was good, 'cause she was up in heaven with God. Despite my mother's flaws, she was a human, and we all have flaws. She was an amazing person. Um, she went hard for people she cared for, and you know, I'm always gonna look back and cherish the good times, that me and her had and whatnot, and you know, I'm a I'm always remember her. I'm gonna hold her forever in my heart. I know that this video was meant to like, kind of commemorate her and whatnot, but I kind of wanted to give, a little backstory, and you know, I really wasn't expecting to, get emotional, um, but those feelings kind of resurface, and after my mother passed, I literally had to go to therapy, man, because it affected me in a way that I really wasn't expecting it to. You know what I'm saying? And one of the things that I've learned is to go through the emotions, you know what I'm saying? Because I would always compress those feelings, and my mother was the same way. Um, so that's something that I feel like if she worked on it, that we could have probably been in a better space. But you know, today's about her. I don't want to focus on the negative or anything like that. At the end of the day, she was still a great mother. You know what I'm saying? I love my mother regardless. Even when we were going through our stuff. Um, you know, I was harboring a lot of feelings, but deep down, I still love my mother. You know, I always thought that we had time, but that just goes to show you that, you know, time is valuable, it's precious. We're not guaranteed tomorrow. So we gotta, like, let things go. And, what I'm saying? Like, let those that you love, let them know that you love them, man. And that's it. But, I'm put together a little compilation, what I'm saying? Some pictures and stuff in her honor. So, thank you for watching, and I'll talk to y'all soon. So this is one of the pictures that my mother had made um, for her. It's a portrait of herself, and it was in her apartment, and we brought it back for my daughter. Um, so it's in her room. So she has her grandma close by.
So when my mom passed away, we pretty much had to like clean out her apartment, and so she had a lot of photos, pictures and stuff that we ended up bringing back. So this is a picture on her graduation from college. So yeah, but this photo right here is the most important one that I love most. So my wife and my kids had this photo sent out to be made for me for Christmas. So it's pretty much like the only picture that I have of my mother and my grandmother, like of us together, me as an adult. So this one's like special to me dearly.